So, for our guest this week, we've got a TV legend who is, in fact, a former Gadget Show presenter.
Yeah,
and has spent,
not a lot of people know that.
I know, nearly 20 years presenting, you'll know this, on BBC's flagship tech programme, Click. Ladies and gentlemen, it is, of course, Spencer Kelly.
Oh, we have sound effects. How
yeah.
brilliant.
Oh yeah, we've got the works here.
Can I
very
reach over?
low-tech,
Can I reach over and hit those randomly, or is
At
that
any point, you just
against protocol?
make your piggy yourself. Enjoy it.
Oh, it's great to have you as
Thank
a
you for
guest.
having me.
Well, thank you for coming in. And I'm going to start with Click because obviously recently there was this huge outpouring of love and sadness. Actually, that the brand was stopping and that you and Lara, the lovely Lara, would be not on our screens anymore. And I have to say, it's been a staple for 2 decades. It's quite sad. You must feel, well, how do you feel?
Well, I mean, you guys know as much as I do that stuff moves on. People higher up change their minds, fancy something different. We've been on air every week of the year for nearly 25 years. So I've just got to say, how lucky have I been to be part of that for more than 20 myself.
That's amazing.
And we're still on air at the moment for a little bit. And I think this week we're making season 1, episode 1278.
Good. Great.
So, it's and doing the job is like a drug because every week I get to do something different, talk about something different, learn about something different, and then obviously be creative with how I tell the stories. I've been able to travel the world. So, yes, I'm really thankful. And yeah, oh my God, what happened on social media that day when all the news broke of all the developments? It was just so lovely. It was a beautiful distraction. I spent the day scrolling through Twitter. Yeah. Don't do that. Nobody do that ever.
It's a strange mix of emotions, isn't it?
Yeah,
because you are, like you say, you're really delighted that you've been able to be part of something so incredible for such a long time. But there's always the sadness when something ends because things are moving on. But let's extract the positives.
Well, I tell you one
positives.
positive. I can tell you a positive. People aren't going to come up to me and say, "Oh, you're that guy off the telly, aren't you? The tech show." Yeah, Click.
I'm sorry.
So that's a
because
bonus.
we clearly look the same, don't we?
Yeah, we do. I tell you what, my memory of Spencer is I was very fortunate and honoured to be asked to present you, I don't know if you remember this, with your T3 Personality of the Year award. I went up on stage.
I've got one of those.
They managed to find a personality in me. How about that?
No, it's great. It's quite a gong, that as well, isn't it?
It's a massive. I mean, if ever there was an intruder in my house, I would choose that to take him down. And I mean, it was just a beautiful bit of recognition. And I took 2 people along to the dinner with me, and I didn't tell them that I'd won. 'Cause I knew I'd won beforehand. I don't know if I'm giving any secrets away.
I didn't know.
I didn't know.
I was in
right.
the bathroom. Someone had to come and get me. It's all very...
Oh, it sounds more and more of a fix all the time now. I'm saying I knew about it.
But I tell you, so you're talking about that that nice day on Twitter when you announced what was going on, and it was fantastic. The response was lovely and warm, and I reached out to you, and I think I mentioned that, didn't I, in my tweet? But I also mentioned that you were on the Gadget Show, and loads of people were like, "Really?" And I was like, "Absolutely." So, can you tell us when did you start on the Gadget Show, and just a little bit about your memories of being on the show?
I think I was in like series 2 and 3, so that's like 2004, 2005. Then I started presenting Click, so that's when I left you guys. And the guys here actually sent me some YouTube links of some of the stuff, and it took me 2 days to summon up the courage to actually watch any of them because I thought I was going to cringe myself inside out. But actually, we did some good stuff. I'm quite proud. I mean, the people at North One, they handled the scripts and were on me saying, no, we're going to make this simpler and whatever, because my job was to explain really complicated stuff, which I love doing. And so how does sat-nav work? I watched the one recently where how does a barcode work? And I confidently predicted that barcodes were about to be replaced by RFID tags on all your shopping.
Nice one.
So that went well. They sent me to France to explain about how you could download songs at a lower price in France, and do
you know what? I remember that one.
Do you?
I do. Strangely enough.
So again, they sent me the link. I watched it, and I watched myself walking up to French people on the streets of probably Calais, doing joke French accents and language to them. I would be, excusez-moi, avez-vous une fenêtre peut-être? And you couldn't do that now because that's just blatantly rude. And of course, you think now music downloads, they've gone, and we're streaming everything, and it's all far more universal now.
No, that's the great thing about the Gadget Show library, isn't it? Is that you get to look at the historical sort of journey we've been on.
It's a whole plotted history of consumer technology, really, if you look back, isn't
every so often there is a milestone and the world changes. And whether it's like the iPhone, which I think was the turning point, wasn't the first smartphone, but in the stuff that I was watching from 2004, 2005, the type of phones that we were featuring, were not big touchscreens. And I remember on Click around the same time, or when I joined there, we're talking about the fact that phones technically can do more and more. They're adding games, they're adding calendars, they're adding all this. But there was no way to control them apart from that 12D keypad, I think it's called. You could see the technology was waiting for a milestone, and then along came the iPhone, and it just changed the world.
Do you know what it was waiting for? It was waiting for two presenters to have to jump off a bridge to test physical buttons against a touchscreen device.
Yeah, I mean, that is Steve Jobs I believe in his autobiography. Did he write one? Yeah, he did. Thanks you for doing that. He genuinely said, I was looking for a way to market this idea, and then along came this bungee thing.
Jason and Suzi. I think the thing personally about Click and the Gadget Show, because they worked, I think, in really good harmony together. Yeah. Very, very different formats. Yeah. Ours was, had information, but it was also quite jokey and a lot of fun and wild, entertainment driven. Whereas, I think yours was more fact based. Yeah. And a little bit more future techy as well.
Exactly
than we were. Perhaps.
Yeah, you were testing the latest stuff by jumping off bridges and whatever. And I've always been fascinated by what comes next. And the beauty of what we have been able to do is we'll go to universities and we'll see their research and we'll say this could change the world. Usually we're wrong, but every so often we'll find something that in a couple of years' time is going to change the world. And then also, because we're an international show, part of our duty has been to go around the world and look at how technology is totally changing people's lives across the world, the richest and the poorest countries.
But that is, I have to say, that is one of the things that the BBC has always done really well. Is it serviced an international market, and it brings people of all different races, creeds, from into our world, the world of the British Broadcasting Corporation, spreads the message, but it also gives those of us in hotel rooms a connection to back home, and that's one of the things I remember about
100%.
Click.
But it did, it had to, didn't it, really? Because it was on BBC World,
so
it's a global audience, whereas obviously Gadget Show was UK based. But you're right. Wherever I was in the world, you'd switch on BBC World, and there I blooming was. There's Spencer and Lara doing their thing, and it was a really lovely connection back. But when you're doing a show like that, and over a long period of time, there are standout moments. And they can involve anything. So if you could share some of yours with us, we would love that.
Okay, so as I said, 1,278 episodes so far, and still counting. There's so many. The international travel is some of it. Some of the most inspiring stuff I've seen has been in the poorest areas of the world. I've been in the slums in Kenya, where a new stuff that we would take for granted, a new mobile phone app connects pregnant women to their doctors, and it saves their lives, because suddenly, where they can't see a doctor, suddenly they can get diagnosed. Or there's one time many years ago, we went to a village about 4 hours outside of Delhi, and the story was this rural village there, and there was an LED message board lashed to a tree with a rope, and you think, well, that's go on. And what it was, this is back in 2004, 2005, I think, it had a SIM card in the back, and it could receive and display text messages. And what it meant was, for that village, they were seeing weather forecasts for the first time. They were seeing health information for the first time. And you can imagine the difference that such a basic piece of technology makes. So there's that. And then there's the other. I nearly wet myself in Korea once. That's a different story. No, I'll continue that sentence. I nearly wet myself in Korea when I saw a humanoid robot drive a car, do DIY, and it was getting ready for the DARPA Robotics Challenge, which is this biannual thing that the Americans put on. And this robot called Hubo was the KAIST University contestant, and it was just going through its paces. It went on to win the competition a few weeks later, but I lost my mind when I saw this thing, probably back in 2016. So I've seen both ends of the spectrum. And then also, I mean, if I may, one of the things I'm proudest about with Click is that the team who work on it, we're not just talking about the tech, we want to use the tech to make the program. And so we were always pushing what's possible. We would make the program in dodgy motels in Las Vegas off the back of CES. We make them on our laptops and we try and deliver the program over the internet. One year, I remember the motel Wi-Fi got cut off by its ISP because, quote, someone was file sharing in the hotel. Kind of us.
It was the BBC.
But we made the world's first full program that was filmed and edited on mobiles before anyone could do that.
Great idea.
It was hell. It was awful.
We filmed a show on mobiles, but we obviously didn't edit it.
No, this is back in probably 2012. We made the first full 360 program that you could view on VR goggles, and we had to build our own 360 rig out of 6 GoPros, and we had to go to visually stunning locations like the Alps and the Large Hadron Collider. I mean,
Obviously.
The law. And again, we learned how to do that, and you can still watch that on YouTube today. You put on the goggles, and you're there with us, and we learned about different ways of making TV. And then our 1000th program was the world's first factual program, which was a choose your own adventure program. So as you watch it online, you get given options of whether you want to see more about that story, whether you want to move into that, whether you want to hear this interview about self-driving cars or skip that. And then the pandemic came, and when most TV programs went off air, we just forgot to stop making the program and just carried on. I'm so proud of how the team have just embraced,
stuck together. Kept going.
We geeked out, and we said, "What about this? We could do that. Yeah, let's try that." And that's our legacy.
I'm really interested in some of the kind of tech thought leaders that you've chatted to. Now, is it true that you met Bill Gates once?
Bill Gates was my very first big name interview, and I was terrified. We had to fly to Edinburgh, me and the boss, where Bill Gates was presenting something at the Parliament up there. That's where I also learned that politicians, when they're presenting to Parliament about, say, technology, just say the same thing over and over again, so that whatever soundbite the news uses, it's basically their one message. Because I listened to Gordon Brown doing that while we were waiting for Bill Gates, and I was terrified because Bill Gates, he was known as being let's say not the warmest of interviewees. He
doesn't come across as very warm.
No, and I was obviously really nervous. But the thing that I always want to do when I meet this kind of person is I don't go for the hard questions. I don't ask where the bodies are buried. They've been asked that a million times before. I'm not Jeremy Paxman, for goodness sake. I geek out with them. I want them to know that I know about their subjects, and I just want to know the stuff. And so I'm actually quite proud. I was fairly green, but I think in as much as he could, he warmed to me, and we just talked about tech. And I came away from that thinking, okay, I'm going to try that again. And since then I've done that with other people as well. James Cameron. We geeked out about 3D movies because that went well. Yeah, didn't it? I told Daniel Ek once, the founder of Spotify, that his business model is not going to work.
Well done.
Yeah,
good call. But this is why we know you're an ex-Gadget Show presenter, isn't it? Because you can't predict.
Yeah, exactly. None of us can.
I mean, they did make a loss for a long time, to be fair, Spotify. So I think maybe I was right to the tune of a few $100 million, but they got there in the end.
Is it true that you met the Queen?
So a few years ago, I got back after Christmas into the Click office, and there was an envelope on my desk that had what looked like the royal insignia postmark on there. And I thought, that's just a bit of PR spam. Yeah. I opened it, and it was a card saying you're invited to the palace to celebrate the opening of the Buckingham Palace website. And I thought, I'll ignore that for a while. That doesn't look real. Then I got a follow-up phone call or email saying something like, "Hello, this is the palette. We're just checking whether you've got the invite." And I thought, "Oh, blimey, this is real." And so they'd invited, let's call them the great and the good of the tech world. And I met there for the first time.
Hello.
Hang on a minute. Was ours lost? Do you think it was lost in the post, our invite?
I mentioned to her, Madge, and she
Thank you.
said she was just a bit intimidated to invite you.
Thank you,
because
Spencer.
she's a massive
That's
fan.
all right. Yeah.
But while I was there, I met Martin Lewis for the first time, the husband of my my. Do I call her my on-screen wife? I'm not sure.
Yes.
But he was still kind of up and coming at the time. I met the guy who founded something like parkinmydrive.com. So say, the great. And what happens is you stand in the antechamber at Buckingham Palace eating your quail's eggs. And I thought, oh, damn it, I'm out of quail's eggs. Yeah, I must pop into Lidl and get some of those afterwards.
Yeah.
And then you're called into a room where there are 3 people waiting to greet you. The first person lifts your name card and hands it to the second person, who reads out Spencer Kelly, BBC Click, and the third person along the line is the Queen. And I was completely like not ready for it, shook her hand and said, "Hi, nice to meet you," and then walked off. And I thought, "Oh, that's probably not." And then later in this grand ceremony, we're all milling around again. And then
you did say Your Majesty.
No, I didn't. I said, "Hi, nice to meet you." Because anyway, so then later they're doing.
This is why Click's been taken off
That's
air.
it, mate.
This is what's happening.
Yes.
Yeah, you were tagged from that moment on.
So then the Queen makes her way up through all these people, and the room falls silent. And I do think, poor lady, she probably gets this everywhere. It's either what do they say, the smell of fresh paint,
That's
or the national anthem wherever she goes. This is silence. So she comes in and talks about the website a little bit, and then comes round. And what happens is, the Queen comes and chats to you, and they arrange you in little horseshoes, groups of 5 people. And they say, right, Her Majesty's going to come and she's going to have a conversation with you in a minute. And there were me, there was Rory Kethlen-Jones, who's the BBC tech correspondent. There's Martin, money saving expert, and a couple of other people. We're all professional communicators, and the Queen comes and starts chatting to us, and after a while we just dry up and cannot think what to say to the Queen, and she's the one that carries on the conversation because she was such a pro at that sort of thing. And so softly spoken and quietly spoken and seemingly genuinely interested. And I thought, yeah, rock on.
Yeah.
I didn't say that.
So, well,
I think you should have done.
Well, I was too busy. I was too busy saying, "Where's Jason and Suzi?"
Thank you for representing.
Yeah.
We were serving the
cool.
canopies, actually. Truth be known.
I was trying to climb over the wall. I kicked my ball in. I said, "Excuse me, mate. Grab my ball back." It didn't work. No, it's all good. Amazing. Absolutely. What an incredible legacy.
Right. A final question for you, Spence. If you could influence the next big project for a tech company, can you put your finger on what it might be and why?
Oh my word!
I probably should have given you this
That
before
is a
to
great
think
question.
about. But yeah, that will take us into the mind of Spencer Kelly, I think.
You don't want to go there. For a start, it's very cramped, and it's a bit funky and not in a good way.
Well, that's all right.
I think I'm really passionate about, and I will say AI, but it's not the AI that everyone's going crazy about these days. Everyone's talking about AI now because it's finally behaving like it does in the sci-fi movies. You can talk to it, right? Whereas AI's been around for a lot longer, and in all the talks I do, when I do these events and stuff, I try and make sure people understand that AI is not ChatGPT. That's a tiny bit of it. AI is bigger than that. I really want somehow for big data and AI to have access to enough health information in a way that we trust, where it can, let's say, cure cancer or Alzheimer's, because it's impossible for human doctors to see enough patterns about the people who do and don't get Alzheimer's. It's impossible for human doctors to see that. Give as much information as you can to a computer, a massive computer, and it may spot a pattern. And I'll be ridiculous about this, but it was people born in the summer who mainly eat a diet of cucumbers, who live in the southern hemisphere that don't get Alzheimer's, or something like that. It's not that. Yeah. They might spot patterns, and that's how we might cure diseases or prevent diseases. And I think that application of AI, we shouldn't be afraid of it. That's the bit that it's impossible for humans to do, and that's the bit where we can quote, make the world a better place.
There's a great example that I saw recently, and it was a computer vision exercise, big, large data sets, like you say, and it was images of Mayan. What are those shapes that they used to make in great big, like spiders?
Yeah,
and
the massive things that were so huge.
Shapes in the land.
The temples.
But no actual sort of drawings of animals and things like that.
Oh,
and they would be miles long or something.
Yeah, that's right. And we started to see them through satellites, but they gave these images in various forms to an AI. And it literally discovered hundreds of Mayan images that had never been seen before from
satellite
said, that
looks a little bit like a monkey. Check that out.
Yeah, and they went there, and sure enough, it was a monkey. Yeah, it was absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So I should have said discovery of more Mayan monkeys when I wanted the.
There is that, but I think maybe cat cancer's a more important target, Spencer.
There's the health side of this, which whether it's you're curing diseases or managing to keep people healthier for longer, which is something Lara, my co-host, is very passionate about, increasing your health span rather than your lifespan. So learning how to be healthier for more of your life.
And be able to live a really, really good long life.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spencer, that's a fantastic, lovely answer. I really like that. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for asking.
It's been gorgeous to talk to you, and good luck with whatever comes next.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thanks, Spencer.
Yeah.